Have you ever thought about this question? Why would someone who already holds supreme power still feel the need to launch wave after wave of political struggle? Why must they always be looking for enemies? This is Jersey's news commentary channel. When many people talk about Mao Zedong, they tend to stay at the surface. Why was he so cruel? Why did he carry out repeated purges? But the real question is this: why did Mao have to keep creating enemies? Because for Mao, enemies were not a threat, they were fuel. Mao's power was not sustained by stable institutions, it was maintained through a constant state of enemy versus us struggle. Once enemies disappeared, power would move toward normalization, routinization, and institutionalization. And that was precisely what Mao could not tolerate. Normalization meant power would be dispersed, decisions discussed, and personal will diluted. So for Mao, enemies were not a risk. They were a necessity. Look back at the Cultural Revolution, the struggle against capitalist roaders. The assault on the establishment. This was the root cause. In Mao's inner world, there was an extreme sense of insecurity. His greatest fear was losing dominance. In a highly centralized environment, with no institutional breaks, Mao's understanding of power was deeply personalized. The enemies Mao created were not necessarily those who opposed him. More often, they were simply those who did not obey him completely. The system was a true one-man structure. Organizations penetrated endlessly downward, and struggle was everywhere. Mao did not need to personally purge enemies. He only needed to point them out. Once he pressed the fusion button of struggle, the system ran automatically, organizations aligned, the masses mobilized, violence spread. Enemy making became a power operation, with extremely low cost and extremely high returns. Once there were no targets, the legitimacy of power began to erode. So enemies had to be constantly upgraded and expanded. From rightists to capitalist roaders. From inside the party to outside it, from individuals to entire classes. This was not loss of control. It was logical inevitability. Even Zhou Enlai lived in constant fear. When manufacturing enemies became a routine mechanism of rule, Mao achieved supreme dominance. And Chinese society paid catastrophe after catastrophe. So the constant creation of enemies was not merely Mao's dark psychology. It was the result of an extreme personality fused with a system without breaks. As long as such a system exists, and another deeply insecure individual gains unlimited power, the tragedy will repeat itself. Today's Xi Jinping appears as a reincarnation of Mao. Follow me as I decode China for you. Next episode: where did Mao's insecurity really come from?